So often, the sports hangover touches on mature topics. Discretion is advised.
All right, we are pleased to be joined right now by Ken Fang of fangsbites.com. I've been reading this site for years, also a contributor to awfulannouncing.com. Thanks for joining us today, Ken.
Hey, Jeremy, Michael, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I'm excited to talk to you.
So I've been holding out some news for you, Ken. You probably heard this.
Too.
Mike didn't hear this yet.
I didn't hear this.
I'm getting late-breaking word that Michael Strahan is joining Good Morning America. Have you heard this, Ken?
No, I have not.
This is true. This is not April Fool's. I wouldn't lie to you.
Wow, that's interesting. I have not heard. I've been walking my dog for the last hour, so it's possible something could have broken. I have no idea right now.
It just broke. So Brian Stelter from CNN, formerly a Media Bistro TV newser, he just tweeted that Michael Strahan is joining Good Morning America in part to replace Josh Elliott, who just left the show.
I think, Jeremy, you got ahead of yourself. He didn't even say like what Ken does on his website on Awful Announcing. He talks about like it's inside baseball on all the people you see on TV all the time, hosting shows on Good Morning America. So this is big news, right, Ken? This is like a big move for a show like this.
Oh, well, yeah, it had to get somebody who is similar to Josh, a likable guy, kind of knows sports.
Yeah.
But at the same time, kind of good looking for the women. And Josh was that, all that. Apparently someone told me he's adorable. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not into Josh, but people tell me he's adorable. But and Michael has that factor too, having worked with Kelly Ripa on Live with Michael and Kelly. So and on many ABC stations, his show follows Good Morning America. Yeah. So it kind of goes hand in hand. So it's an interesting thing. Michael keeps redefining himself. In addition to just being the Fox NFL Sunday analyst, and more power to him because it's a great strides, and I think he would be the second African American to be fronting a morning news show, because Brian Gumbel, I think, was the first for the Today Show back in the 80s on NBC.
What about the bald lady?
Robin Roberts.
Yeah. Wasn't she on there too?
Oh, I forgot her. I don't know. I was thinking male. Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's okay. So
Robin Roberts is so popular. I just want to throw out there, Strahan's going to stay on the show with Kelly Ripa. He's going to do double duty in the mornings. He's doing both.
You can't do that. I was going to say, like, where they just did this giant search trying to find Michael for the show, right?
To replace Regis.
There's no way this guy can do 2 morning shows and NFL on Sunday.
On Fox, on a different network. Isn't that interesting, Ken? He's going to be dueling on both these networks now?
It's going to be interesting. Well, Erin Andrews is doing the same thing. She works on Fox and also does Dancing with the Stars. It's interesting to see these sports media people go into different fields and branch out this way. Of course, Josh Elliott did that too, from ESPN going to Good Morning America, now going back into sports. It's really interesting. This whole thing is, it's interesting how these machinations work. You're breaking news to me, and I'm looking here at Brian's feed here. Stelter's the one who does it, because he was, of course, he did a book on morning television when he was with the New York Times and reported heavily on the Today Show and the Good Morning America. So this is right up his alley. It's very interesting how this all came about. And, again, more power to Michael Strahan to be able to, branch out into more than just sports and the NFL. Of course, he'll still have a hand in that. But I'm just wondering, because he's going to be bi-coastal and, doing the GMA and doing, is it overexposure, and is he going to tire him out? I mean, maybe he'll have to drop one. Who knows?
I mean, I would be exhausted after doing that morning show and then doing something on Sunday and only having maybe one day free and maybe trying to go on other network. It's too much. Erin Andrews, she's kind of living like the good, easy life. She hosts, maybe twice a week on Dancing with the Stars and does a little football on the weekends.
It's true.
Easy stuff.
Different schedule.
So,
different schedule, right? Exactly. I mean, she doesn't have to, she's not in college football mode right now. Yeah. And then, of course, Dancing with the Stars does have I think they do have do they have a fall season? I'm not sure. I don't think they do. I think they just do it in January. So she can work it around the schedule. It's fine.
I think they do with ice skating with the Stars or something on a different, because they do. Yeah, I don't know. But
I think it's amazing the second career Strahan is having outside of football. Rarely do you see an athlete succeed so much off the field as he has. And like you said, more power to him. I want to get to Josh Elliott, who you just mentioned. Ken, he is jumping NBC Sports from Good Morning America. A lot of people think he could take over for Bob Costas down the road. Costas, 62, he was battling pink eye during the last Olympics. Some people also think he could replace Matt Lauer on the Today Show. Where do you see the long-term move for Josh Elliott?
I like that one.
He is multifaceted and very talented. And as I mentioned, some people think he's adorable. I don't see it, but people tell me that he is. He is knowledgeable. He is a big soccer fan. Did a great job when he was hosting SportsCenter with Hannah Storm before he went over to GMA in 2012, I think, in 2011 or so, and really helped to vault GMA into number one. I think this is probably a preemptive strike by NBC to take him off that show. Now, according to whom you want to believe, Brian Stelter again reported this, that Josh Elliott wanted a big, huge raise from ABC, asking for about $8 to $10 million when he gets like 1.5, according to the reports right now. TMZ came out with a report today. Again, take it with a grain of salt, that he took a pay cut to go to NBC just because he wanted to get out of ABC so badly. Again, I don't know how true that is, but apparently NBC came up with a very good offer for him to do the Olympics, to do the Sunday Night Football, to also be part of the horse racing's Triple Crown. Apparently grooming him to be Costas' replacement. But at the same time, he can also do, as we all have seen over the last couple of years, he can do morning television, do it very well, be a news anchor. He's also been a replacement anchor and a substitute anchor for Diane Sawyer on ABC's World News. So he can fit in several areas for NBC. I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to go back into morning television, but maybe that lure of being Costas' replacement. He is in his 40s. He can certainly, when Costas retires, whenever that day comes, he can be in the Olympics host chair for almost as long as Costas has been in for now. So,
it's a long time.
There's many areas where Josh Elliott could go, and basically the world is his oyster.
Something about NBC, like when people go there, sometimes it's like if they don't actually get a hit right away and become a face on NBC, they kind of get lost in somewhere in NBC world. Like maybe you're on this channel or this channel. Like Michelle Beadle went over to NBC.
I was going to say Michelle Beadle, yeah.
And she tried to do the exact same show she had on ESPN, and it didn't really work out. They tried changing it up a little bit, and then she just decided to go back. But it seems like NBC, sometimes you get a little lost in the mix of how much they have on TV all the time, the Olympics and everything like that. They
have a different type of culture over there, and again, it's also a different type of they don't have as much of the inventory as the other networks. It's, as you mentioned, NFL, Olympics, horse racing, the NHL. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, they do have some other sports in between, like the French Open and the Tour de France, and but they don't have that type of inventory that ESPN and even CBS has with the PGA Tour and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things there. You're right about that. Unless you really take off right away, it's difficult to get really a rise over there. But at the same time, Josh Elliott can do either or. If he doesn't do well in sports and the sports division wants to kick him out, he can go into news and go to the Today Show and replace Matt Lauer. So he's one of those people who could do several things.
It's nice to have the options. You got to be careful, Mike. Ken is a close friend of Michelle Beadle on Twitter. I see you guys interacting all the time, Ken.
Well, and she was on my podcast, and that was the beginning of the end for her.
That's not good.
Well, yeah. Well, she came on my podcast, and I just kind of jokingly said to her, I said, "So you're being preempted a lot by the America's Cup at the time. That was taking her show off the air." And then she took that and talked about how she was frustrated by the lack of promotion by NBC for her show,
getting lost in the mix.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then she said, what's going on over there? And I'd like to do more things. And apparently Sam Flood, who is the executive producer of NBC Sports Network, got a little angry over the podcast and took her off. So,
we got to be careful with you, Ken. Jeez.
I'm not saying I can take white people down. I'm just saying, you got to be careful.
Ken, actually, I have a question talking about NBC. I always watch hockey on NBC Sports, or mostly NBC Sports when the games are local or are not, but they seem to be a lot of rotation between on the NBC Sports anchors. I don't know if you watch any hockey on NBC.
I'm a big hockey fan. Yeah.
But did you notice they started trying to throw in Tony Roenick on there, and they started like
Jeremy Roenick.
Jeremy Roenick. Yeah, sorry. They started throwing in a lot of guys in and out, and I feel like I don't know. Again, just not enough consistency.
Well, I think they're trying to find the right combination. During the Olympics, you saw a lot of Liam McHugh and Mike Milbury and Jeremy Roenick. They did quite well. Keith Jones was supposed to be in the mix. I don't know why he was there like the first few days, and then all of a sudden we didn't see him again. I don't know if there was a family issue or back home or not, but Jeremy all of a sudden came in and took over as the second analyst for the studio for hockey. I just think they're trying to find a consistent mix, especially as they go into their busy time, which is going to be the playoffs coming in this month, April, and going into May, and then finally the Stanley Cup Finals in June. So I think they're trying to probably find a good mix and see who's going to be their main team for the studio for the playoffs.
All right,
Ken. Speaking of April. We've just turned the calendar to April. March Madness is still going on. We've seen this NCAA tournament on many networks these days. We're on CBS, TBS, TNT, True TV. This weekend in the Final Four, we're going to see some simulcast with local announcers on TNT and True TV, with TBS broadcasting the games on Saturday. What do you make of the whole 4-channel deal for March Madness?
I think it's been helpful because, first of all, this has been a record viewership for the NCAA tournament going back to since 1993 or 1991. They're getting an average viewership, I think, somewhere around 9.8 million viewers, which is the highest it's been. It's worked out, and not only that, thanks to social media now, you can say, hey, there's a big game, there's a buzzer beater going on True TV, and if you have a bad game on where your channel is, if you're watching CBS or TBS, you can switch over. So instead of waiting for, hey, remember those days before in 2010,
it wasn't that long ago.
When CBS going to switch the game? This is a blowout. Why aren't we going to go see, a potential upset of Duke? Why can't we do that? Now you can do it by yourself, and I think that has really helped expand the audience. And this year's tournament has been very good as far as, Duke went out in the first round. I think America liked that. North Carolina also went out. Yeah, and I think that it really helped that there was a lot of excitement and there's a lot of parity in college basketball. So I think that caught the imagination. Whether it's going to go into now the Final Four, we'll have to wait and see. And also for their what they call the team cast, the localized feeds. This is the first time they're doing this. We'll see if that catches on with the 4 fan bases, and Kentucky is particularly very rabid and very vocal about the national announcers. They'll get their own feeds, and I think they'll like that, and that'll help TBS and Turner with the ratings.
Cool.
It's a surprise Final Four team there with Kentucky. I really like the Turner guys on CBS, like Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley, have Reggie Miller in the mix, Steve Kerr. That's what I like about it. I want to transition to the NFL, though. Speaking of CBS, me and Michael talked on the show last week about Mark Cuban's comments about the oversaturation of the NFL, especially when he was talking about the Thursday night deal with CBS. What do you make of that Thursday night deal going to CBS, the better quality games, and do you think there's any cause for concern in the NFL for oversaturation?
There should be. I think Cuban has a point, but he's talking about his own league too, which is being taken a hit. Especially on Thursdays, there's some games on
that's
CBS.
A great point. I never thought of it.
TNT does take a hit when against the NFL. ESPN has taken a big hit, especially for their college football games for their college football package on Thursday night. So, yeah, I think Cuban's talking a little bit about from a little bit. From a personal standpoint, but he also makes a good point too, because, the NFL in the world of Roger Goodell has expanded from what we've known, Sunday and Monday Night Football into a Thursday night package, into an NFL network, and then now that we're a possibility and of expanded playoffs. You could go once to the well too often. You have to be careful about that, because fans don't like change, and if they get radical change, that's when you start getting blowback. Now, granted, the Thursday night games, people will still watch Cleveland and Buffalo, and I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, so I can say this.
Oh, sorry.
Wow,
yeah,
that's tough.
Cleveland and Buffalo isn't going to move the meter as much as a Dallas New York Giants game, and we all know that. Yeah. But the Thursday night football isn't going to get that game, So it's the NFL has to be a little bit careful about what they do. Granted, CBS made a preemptive strike, and they're going to get a much better package than the NFL Network did over 13 games. They're going to get decent amount of games here. They're going to get 8 games, and they're going to have a decent package, and they're going to get good matchups because they're not going to want Cleveland and Buffalo. There's not. I mean, even though they have the ratings in those two markets will be good, it's not going to move the meter nationally, and they're not going to be able to justify why they took Big Bang Theory off Thursday nights. And those fans are militant too. So,
but I feel like it's hard to oversaturate the NFL because there's only those 16 regular season games. I mean, of course, they can add the playoffs and the preseason games, but in the end, they're not anywhere near basketball as the amount of basketball games there are per week, or hockey or baseball. So I feel like if anything, it's just giving us a little bit more. It's not like Sunday where you tune in on Sunday and it's all day. It's like, here you go. Here's just a little taste to what you get to have on Sunday, and then another one on Monday. Just kind of, I don't know. It's almost like Netflix or something. Like, I like binge watching, and then sometimes I like watching it individual shows. And that's how I feel like they're doing a great job of giving me both. On Sunday, I binge, and then on Monday and Thursday, I'm kind of like, I'll just sit back and watch one and just kind of focus and relax on it.
Well, as long as they don't maybe do a Thursday night doubleheader, which they were originally discussing at one point, or can you imagine 2 bad games? Maybe Cleveland, Buffalo, and then a Jacksonville, and another really bad team.
Oakland.
So that would be awful. I mean, that's something that the NFL nobody wants to see. But I just want the NFL. I'm one of those fans who just likes to. I don't mind a Thursday night game as long as it's a decent one. I don't want to see a bad matchup. And if CBS is going to get some more attractive games, then I'm all for it. But at the same time, I'm just wondering how those NFL Network games in the second half are going to be. Are they going to be throwaway games like the old Sunday night football games were used to be on ESPN when we saw a lot of those similar type of bad matchups? We'll have to wait and see.
The NFL, so I want to ask this to both of you guys. The NFL is home to the biggest broadcasters, Jim Nantz and Al Michaels and Tirico and Joe Buck. I'm curious as to your guys' favorite announcing team in the NFL.
I go right now, Ian Eagle and Dan Fouts. They're very underrated. I certainly hope with Dan Dierdorf's retirement that we'll get to have Ian and Dan, the Bird and the Beard, become the second the B team for CBS and get a playoff assignment because they're very good and they do a very good job. And I expect now that with Nance and Sims doing Thursday night games, they'll probably take some Sundays off, and you'll probably have Ian Eagle and those other teams, the BC, the Kevin Harlans, get a little bit more exposure on those doubleheader games. And I certainly hope that, Ian and Dan will be the beneficiaries of getting more exposure on Sundays.
It's an interesting choice.
I honestly don't know who they are, but I'm going to listen for them next time. Mm-hmm. But my favorite, I love John Gruden. I love when he's on. He's always excited, and it's always the Sunday night games. He's got a lot of energy. Monday night. He's got a lot of energy, and also Al Michaels. I love him.
Too bad they're not together, right?
I know they're not together, but Al Michaels, he's just got I see him in interviews, and I see him. He's just he loves football. He's got a little swagger to him. He's good.
There's a few gambling references too.
That's right. My favorite team is on NBC. I love the NBC production, first of all, just the big game feel of it. And Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth in the booth. I think they're the best duo. And Michelle Tafoya on the field. I think she's the best sideline reporter going right now. We know CBS doesn't even use sideline reporters anymore. Yeah,
they use Tracy Wolfson. They think they learned a little bit of a lesson during the Super Bowl blackout when they didn't have experienced sideline reporters. They used Tracy Wolfson a lot this year on their packages on the first couple of weeks of the regular season and again during the playoffs. I'd expect that with Thursday Night Football, you'll probably see a little bit more of a sideline reporter, perhaps Tracy Wolfson, or maybe even Ali LaForce, who became popular during the NCAA tournament this year. Maybe you'll see her get that gig.
I think she's really talented. She's good looking. I think Ali LaForce is a future star on CBS.
I do too, and the fact is that they used her on CBS Sports Network's NFL pregame show, which is by the way called That Other Pregame Show, and she's also works with Doug Gottlieb on Lead Off on which is seen on midnight Eastern time, 9:00 Pacific.
Not seen by many. Be careful, Ken. Not seen.
It's seen by those people who want to see it. Who can't see it.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that CBS is trying to develop her into someone who could be a personality on the network. I wouldn't be surprised to see her on Thursday Night Football as a sideline reporter there.
All right, Ken, before we wrap up the show, I just wanted to get this question in. Your top 3 all-time announcers. Just bang them out real quick. Top 3. Any sport, any media, anything at all. Top 3.
Let's see. Top of all time, I would say Vince Scully for baseball, Al Michaels, and even though NBC thinks I hate him, Bob Costas.
Wow. All right.
NBC heavy. Vince Scully is a great choice. Soothing voice.
Absolutely. A tremendous announcer. I mean, he has called the NFL. He also did golf also as well. He can call pretty much any sport and do it well.
Ken, thank you so much for joining us. You are at fangsbites.com, a great website. Like I said, I've been reading it for years. Also contributing at awfulannouncing.com now. Good to see you there. You're on Twitter too, right, Ken?
At Fangs Bites on Twitter and also on my Facebook page, facebook.com/FangsBites. So there's a myriad of ways to find me, and I'm very happy to have been on your podcast, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for coming on. We'd love to have you again. There's so much more I want to discuss, the future of the business and so many other topics. I'd love to have you on again, Ken.
Yeah, that's great.
My pleasure. Anytime you want me, just give me a call.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.